Today I want to talk about what I'm going to call the I know mind. This is the part of our conditioned I sense that really believes that it knows what's going on here. It is confident in its own view of reality. And in my experience, this is a tricky one that I'm continuously unraveling within my own experience, because this is the mind that takes on the spiritual teachings and believes that it really knows what's going on spiritually. So spirituality becomes a new playground for the same limited I know mind to sort of manipulate concepts and ideas. And I want to contrast this idea of the I know mind with what I'll just call life itself, like the flow of life force. Because life force is just a flow of intelligence that's always flowing as it does in nature. It's just expressing itself. And as it flows, it transmutes its expression into new forms, new creativity. And certain expressions fail or are almost like aborted, and certain ones are fruitful and continue to flower and evolve down different pathways. This is the intelligence of life itself. But life itself doesn't know anything other than itself. It's so honest. It just knows itself and it just flows as itself. And it makes, you could call it mistakes. It's not really a mistake, but it learns through experiencing. It doesn't know anything as a held concept or belief. Now the I know mind, in my experience, it's like the I know mind is almost like a cork on top of life itself, because it says I know, and within that knowing is this sense of I can control, I can manipulate, I can do things right or I can do things wrong. And we learn this a lot in our school system, where we're tested and we're congratulated on knowing certain things, and we're sort of shamed for not knowing things. And this is a game that we all kind of play in our own different ways. Some of us feel like I don't know. That's kind of the same thing though. It's like I, as a limited mind, don't know. I'm not really good at understanding. And then others of us feel like I really do know, like I'm smart, I understand. And it plays this game in that domain of limited knowledge. But we see on a deeper level, that's all just life flowing as a sort of drama and evolving within itself in this really innocent way. Like life force is pure innocence and pure play. It just evolves and grows and morphs and changes and adapts as it goes. It doesn't judge itself when something quote unquote doesn't work, because really there's no goal in life. Life's only goal or purpose is just to flow, to live, to experience in a simple way. You see that like when we look at evolution, like the evolution of life, and it becomes this variety of different expressions, and we can take each of those life forms, like say all the animal kingdom and the whole plant kingdom, and it's such a multifaceted field of expression. But then we can carry all of those different species have a lineage back and back and back and back and back, all the way to what maybe is like the Big Bang. You know, they all have their starting point there, and it's all life, and life even expressing itself as the geology, like the mineral kingdom and the planets and the stars and the gases, and it's all just flowing intelligently. And we're at a stage now where it's evolved far enough to actually become conscious of itself, like as a conscious separate being, like a human, like us, that we are at a point where life has become evolved enough to reflect back on itself and see itself and know itself directly in a conscious way. Like, I know that I am conscious. It's an amazing thing. It's because at first, life as in geology, life as minerals, can't seem to self-reflect on itself. It's almost like dark within itself, like it hasn't lit up within itself yet. But as the cosmos moves through the evolutionary process, the expressions of form and matter become more and more imbued with consciousness, with awareness. Because awareness was always there. Awareness is always there. Even in the very seed of the cosmos, awareness is there. But it's not really being expressed through the forms in as full a way as when matter has evolved into complex organisms and life forms, multicellular, and eventually forms these upright bipedal vehicles that have a complex brain system, a complex emotional system, complex sensory apparatus, and this overarching brain that can start to think abstractly and conceptualize itself, and all of a sudden we become aware of ourself as something almost separate from ourself, something self-referential and expressive as a form unto ourself. Pure awareness, aware of a form within itself, expressing itself. It's expressing qualities of intelligence as a body, as a mind, and enjoying itself as this expression. And here I have a tree down, so as the intelligence of life, I'm forced to veer off on another angle, another tangent, and see if I can't find a workaround without judging the situation, just following the impulse of life to adapt and change and flow. And I'm back on the trail, back on my evolutionary path, my unique expression of life force living itself here and now. And now the I know mind, see, a lot of this information that I'm conveying has in a way been learned through the I know mind. But as that information is surrendered into a vaster domain of intelligence, then it can become like a fluid expression that's actually just in service of self-knowledge, self-knowing, not in service of a separate me sense, feeling separate from everything and sort of reinforcing and building barricades against the rest of reality and the intelligence of everything. So we use the I know mind's knowledge in service of a greater intelligence to express itself and sort of find and enjoy the contours of its own self-awareness, and use the knowledge creatively to inspire greater openness and greater freedom and ease and enjoyment of life itself. Yeah, I feel like I forget where I've started, and I've sort of gone around in a certain circle. So, the intention, life force, the intelligence of life itself versus the me, I know mind, what I know to be true. And there's nothing wrong with the I know mind. Of course, we get into judgment of it, like, ooh, this is what's blocking me from realization. But it's really just to see it from the vaster space of awareness, seeing the innocence of it, seeing it from outside of its own little limited domain, then we see that it is just an expression of the innocent life force playing within itself. And that's all we really want to see, is that we're not trapped. We're not trapped in that limited I know self-knowledge that feels so constricting and so limiting and so tight. Yeah. And I really do experience this in the chakra system of the human physiology. The I know mind, for me, is a lot of constriction in and around the brain stem and the head, neck, shoulders. This area that's just like trying to assert its own point of view in the world and hold on to that as a little safety, a place of safety. Like, if I know what's going on here, and through that knowledge I can predict what's going to happen, and I can manipulate my situation and those around me to make sure that everything stays neat and tidy and clean within my own projected reality. It's tight and it's all up in the head, neck, and shoulders. This control freak that we all kind of have allowed to take up residence within our structure. And then when we're talking about life force itself, it is everything. It's all of that. It is the I know mind even, but seen from a more open place of, oh, that's just a structure of consciousness. Okay. But where we really connect with it most viscerally is more down in the lower chakras, the root, and down in the sacral chakra, where we just feel the purity of life force, like survival instinct and the impulse towards connection and sensuality and sexuality. This where we just experience it as flowing energy. And now, see, this is where the I know mind has really, oftentimes, in my experience, it's really repressed that down and condensated it into sort of like knots and stuck energy. And it's keeping it kind of corked in through saying, no, I know what should happen here. I know how to control this. I know how to keep things safe and in the sort of predictable way that I want them. And as that starts to soften, those densities of control and seemingly being able to control and manipulate our experience, then we allow this deeper flow from the lower chakras to start almost like uplifting us. It creates almost like a wind in our sails, and this really self-sustaining energy source, almost like a nuclear fusion reactor or some sort of advanced future energy cell that we have the seed of within ourselves. I've been watching people using hydrofoils with wings, where they're skimming along the surface of the water, riding up on the hydrofoil, almost hovering above the surface, and they're riding waves, just the subtle ocean swells and currents and using the wind with a kite to pull them along. It's so balanced and subtle and so efficient in its movement. And I feel like that's similar. Like when we start to refine the energy body, then we see that it's all self-referential and it's like feeding on itself. It's like in a similar way to like a star, like a fusion core of the star. It's collapsing in on itself into its center through the force of gravity. And that force of collapsing is pressurizing the core so much that the core then starts to create a fusion reaction, and the energy from the atoms is being released in that fusion reaction and is like exploding outward at the same time as it's being crushed inward by gravity. And that creates like a balanced inward and outward pressurization that just sits there in a perfect balance of just radiating energy and love throughout the cosmos. And that's where, in that crucible of balanced inward and outward pressure, is where all the elements that we see in creation are forged out of. And again, this is all within our own consciousness. It's in you. You can feel that as your own experience here, the inward flow of consciousness and the upward and outward expression of matter becoming conscious right here. And the density that we feel in our experience is always just our own resistance to the perfect intelligence of life force already happening. It's the I know mind gumming up the system that is just pure life intelligence happening. And of course, no one can own that. That's just the cosmos. That's just the intelligence of life. It's what you are. It's what I am. But we can never have that as a separate self. You can't own it. Any attempt to own it, to claim it, is a huge wet blanket just being laid over the unbounded, uncontrollable, the wild intelligence of life itself that's just happening. It's already happening everywhere. It's just always evolving and expressing within itself. Completely free. It's absolutely free. And so if we want to experience freedom, we just connect to that intelligence within us and notice all the places where we're trying to claim it as a separate knower. And I know. No, maybe not. Maybe we don't. Maybe we don't really know. And that's the doorway to freedom. That's the doorway to experiencing life itself, just in its purity, in its free expression. So this is really just, I'm speaking the very current moment understanding as it's flowing here in my experience. It's not something that I know or I learned a while ago, or even that I've lived before this moment. So don't think that, oh, I'm someone who knows this and you're someone that's not. It's just when we open to it, here it is. Here it is, fresh, just like this. So thanks for listening to this energetic ramble of thoughts and ideas that no one really knows, that's just flowing as life. Thanks for joining me here, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.